Welcome to the Soulful Insights podcast. I'm your host, Tandi. So today's topic is a beautiful exploration of the lifelong path of a spiritual seeker. On the path of spiritual seeking, many people fall into the illusion that a spiritual awakening is a destination to achieve. And I want to help you understand that spiritual awakening is not a destination. It is a lifelong spiritual journey. And in this episode, we will be discussing a variety of spiritual practices for spiritual seekers, such as various forms of meditation, inner child healing, breath work, connecting with your higher self and spirit guides, plant medicine, meditative walks, nature baths, and fostering heart-centered consciousness, among probably some others. So I want to begin with talking about this idea of spiritual awakening, or Kundalini awakening, as some people call it, because I think it's really important. This is kind of at the heart of what we're talking about, is this spiritual awakening. That's what the path of the seeker is they are seeking some sort of higher level of consciousness or some sort of awakening. It's very, very common to hear spiritual teachers who are social media influencers, whether they have YouTube channels or they are on Instagram or whatever. It's very common to hear them claim that they have had a Kundalini awakening or some other type of spiritual awakening. And they speak of this as if it is a destination that they've arrived at. Like, I had this Kundalini awakening. And so they act as though they are on this higher level of consciousness. The problem is, I can guarantee you in their daily life, they don't look a whole lot different than anyone else. Maybe there are some who do, but most of them probably don't. And I don't think that they're being entirely honest with you when they say this, because if you are truly a spiritually awakened being, there are a lot of things that happen, a lot of ways of living that you shed. It would be extremely difficult to live in this world as a being who was that spiritually awakened. While it is entirely possible to have a true Kundalini awakening or some other type of spiritual awakening, it is extremely rare. And a lot of these social media influencers that are claiming this, it's almost a non-existent possibility that this person has actually arrived at some elevated spiritual level above that of most other spiritual seekers. In fact, it's very unlikely that this person is at any higher level of spirituality than you are as a seeker. Often these individuals you'll notice them being very emotionally detached and having very little awareness or even compassion for the suffering of domestic violence victims, abuse survivors, or any other people who are experiencing suffering. These individuals are claiming to be spiritually awakened, and yet they will blame victims of human trafficking, domestic violence, or any other abuse survivors as bringing it upon themselves. This is not something that a spiritually awakened person would be doing. Ignoring the suffering of others or victim blaming is not a characteristic of being spiritually awakened. That is your first clue, and you will see this in most of them. And I've seen it in some that I follow. They have tens of millions of views on their YouTube channel, and many of their videos blame victims. They use the ideas from the law of attraction or manifesting, or this idea that you brought this upon yourself. Truly spiritually awakened individuals are acutely aware of suffering and seek to alleviate suffering rather than bypass the suffering of others. If you look at true spiritual masters throughout history, well, let's choose Jesus, for example. Okay, I come from a high demand religion, so this is one that I know very well. Jesus spent time with the, quote, sinners. He was healing the sick, right? In all of the stories in the Bible, he is making the blind man see, the lame to walk, right? This is what they're doing. He doesn't walk up to the blind man and say, hey, dude, you brought this on yourself. If you would have just had more positive thoughts, you wouldn't be like this. He doesn't walk up to the woman with the issue of blood and say, the reason that nothing that any of these doctors have done has helped you is your own fault. Do you see what I'm saying? When you look at a true spiritually awakened spiritual master, and however you see Jesus is totally fine. If Jesus is God to you, if Jesus is the Son of God or a spiritual master, however you want to see that, it doesn't really matter. We are looking at someone who is obviously very spiritually awakened, no matter how you view that. If this person who's claiming to be spiritually awakened is not exhibiting this type of attitude towards suffering, they are deceiving you. That is the reality. A spiritual awakening makes you more acutely aware of suffering. You also realize suffering is a part of the nature of this realm. When we agree to come into this realm, there is an aspect of us that has to understand that there is a level of unpredictability here. There is free will. I don't control the free will of everyone else. When you talk about manifesting, that doesn't mean that I control everyone else around me and what they do so that they are all just magically going to do what I want them to do. I have narcissists in my family. Can I manifest that family member is no longer a narcissist? No, I can't do that. I don't have control over this individual. And so I have to make decisions for myself based on what that person is choosing to do. And to say that every time someone is abused by someone else, that it was their own fault, we are taking the responsibility away from the abuser. It's not the abuser's fault. It's the victim's fault because they brought it upon themselves. And I've heard this message from some of my favorite spirituality teachers on social media. And it makes me sick. And I'm really surprised that so many people are willing to support this ideology because of how damaging it is and how absolutely opposite it is to true spiritual awakening. When we talk about the essence of who you are spiritually as a spiritual being, it is unconditional love. Unconditional love doesn't go around trying to decide who's at fault for something and blaming people for things. So I just wanted to point this out before we move forward, because I think it's crucial to find spiritual teachers who embody the characteristics of unconditional love, compassion, empathy, kindness, and true heart-centered consciousness, so that your path can be illuminated by one fundamental truth, the fundamental truth of all that is, and that is unconditional love. So if you have a spiritual guru, teacher, social media influencer that you are following, and they start this victim blaming, and they start this idea of, you know what, your suffering is your own fault, you brought it upon yourself, you got to start having more positive thoughts, just realize that this is not a spiritually awakened person that you are following. And I pause there for a moment because I really want you to think about this. I want you to think about how much damage is done. The thing is, if we were to truly believe in the toxic forms of the law of attraction or manifesting, let's say that you have a couple and they were married for 25 years and they were absolutely madly in love with each other the whole time. Deeply, deeply in love with each other. And one of them passes away. and the other one is absolutely gutted in grief. And they are missing that spouse. According to a lot of these so-called spiritually awakened gurus, they're going to blame this person and say, hey, you better knock it off. You cannot have grief because you're just going to manifest more grief in your life and more grief and more grief. I mean, this person is literally going to have a firestorm of hell around them forever until they stop grieving. And some will say, oh, well, there's a time delay. Well, what if this person always has a hole in their heart? What if they grieve for 2 years or 5 years or however long before they start kind of feeling somewhat normal again? What's the time delay? We're putting time limits on people's grief. I just actually started watching The Secret last night with my husband. He really wanted to watch it. It was something that he was really interested in back in 2006, early 2000s. And he's like, I want to watch this again and just kind of see where this all started for me. And I had to turn it off because they were labeling good emotions and bad emotions. If you are angry, if you are sad, if you're experiencing grief, if you are depressed, those are bad emotions. You cannot have them. And I thought, you know what? This is what happens when we make people censor the full reality of this world. You're going to have grief. You're going to lose loved ones here. You don't get to manifest yourself out of that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that life can't be beautiful and you can't use those laws, but they have been presented in very wrong ways, very abusive ways. You have to feel your feelings. You have to process them. You have to feel them. You don't have to hold on to all of them. Grief is going to be there for a time, and every person's grief is going to be different. We don't put time frames. We just love people. If I have a client that comes to me that is in grief, I'm not going to say, hey, you got 19 months and you suffer for 19 months one day, all hell's going to break loose in your life. The universe is just going to manifest more in your life of this grief and pain and suffering and all of this. What am I doing? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit with them for however long it takes. Because that's what love does. That's what love is. I'm not judging your grief. I am not going to tell you you brought it on yourself. I am not going to tell you it's your fault. I'm not going to say any of those things because guess what? I don't believe that. I'm just going to sit with you. I'm going to provide a shoulder to cry on. And it's there as long as you need it. And if your spiritual guru is not offering that, you need to find a different one. Because this world has the full range of emotions and there's nothing wrong with any of them and none of them are bad. Now, anger has healthy expression and it has unhealthy expression. Intimacy has healthy expression and unhealthy expression. And the more spiritually awakened we are, the more healthy we are able to experience those things. But I'm not going to say it's all bad. Anger is always bad. No, it's not. If you hear about a man sexually abusing a 7-year-old child and you feel angry about that, that's good. You should be angry. Anger is the only way that we are going to react to something that isn't right and try to make it right. It needs to be there. We don't live in a perfect world. I wish we did, but we do not. That is not the nature of where we live. And so all of these emotions need to be there. And as a spiritual seeker, what you are seeking to do is take the anger from its unhealthy expression, and you are slowly moving it into its healthy expression. And I'm sorry, but the only example that I know of is Jesus turning the tables in the temple. You have a spiritually awakened master that's showing a little bit of righteous anger there. Because these people were of what they were doing. Right? We also have unhealthy and healthy expressions of intimacy. You look at lust. It's a very unhealthy expression of intimacy. It causes a lot of damage because it leads to darker and darker places the farther down that line we go. There's very, very healthy expressions. Those healthy expressions of intimacy can bring some of the greatest spiritually awakened spiritual experiences you can have that most people never have because they stay in toxic or unhealthy levels of it. So yes, as a spiritual seeker, you are looking to improve all of those aspects of your life and have healthy expressions of being frustrated or angry or sad. You can be sad for another person. You can feel sorrow for people who are suffering through human trafficking or a child that was abused or the loss of a loved one. All of those emotions are fine, and the universe is not just going to deliver more of it to you because you're feeling it. Creation, we as divine creators, creation requires intention. Sometimes we unintentionally, like, I don't want to say unintentionally, but there are times where we put intention behind things that we don't intend to. But there still has to be an intention. It is not that we just, how chaotic would that be if we're just randomly creating everything that we focus on? Somebody that has an issue, mental health issue with ruminating thoughts, that is going to create an absolute hell in their life. Like, that's not how it works. There's no intention behind any of that. It's not going to go anywhere, right? There's a lot more to it than that. So I want you to reflect on your own spiritual journey, where you have come from, what you've learned from the experiences that you've had, and how you want to continue moving forward in your spiritual journey. I want you to look at the spiritual gurus that you're following. I want you to look at these people with a critical eye. What are they teaching? Is it founded in unconditional love? Because if it's not, always their messages should be founded in unconditional love. And if it's not, they're probably not leading you in the direction that you want to go. If the words they're speaking are not founded in compassion and empathy and love, it doesn't mean that they don't call out someone's toxic behavior when it needs to be called out. Yes, we are calling out the person who is toxic, not the victim. Okay. So if you come from a high demand religion, reflect on your journey through that religion. What did you learn? I know I learned a lot of things. There were a lot of toxic things that I dealt with, a lot of hurtful things. I look back. It's like when you look back, you see it. But when you're in the middle of it, you don't quite see how toxic it actually was. So you can look at what you learned and what you want to take forward with you, and also what you want to leave behind that no longer serves you. If you come from a background of complete lack of any spirituality and you're just starting on this journey, on this path as a seeker, what did you learn from your experience? Maybe as an atheist or as someone who did not engage with spirituality at all. What did you learn from that? And what is it that you're seeking for now? No matter where you came from, as you move forward in your journey, always check in with your heart and follow what resonates deeply with you. And it's going to be different for everyone. Some people from high demand religion may want to keep the idea of the image of God that they had. Some people that came from an atheist background may want to see God as an energy force or as the universe or something like that. Whatever resonates with you is fine. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Okay? It really, honestly, you will be guided in all of the ways that are right for you, and everyone's path is going to look different. So the first practice that I want to emphasize as we go through this path of the seeker is meditation. And meditation is the foundation of spiritual awakening, of connection. And again, that connection can look in a million different ways for different people. You can be looking to connect with God. Some women prefer to connect with the feminine divine, which is fine. Some people are connecting with spirit guides or their higher self. There's all different connections that can be made with this. But this is a foundation, very foundational practice on your journey for spiritual growth and development. Meditation is the primary method by which you can tune out the distractions of the world, connect with your true self, and receive divine communication and direction in your life. It is how you transcend this physical identity that you play in the physical realm and learn who you truly are as a soul. It's also a practice that will help you learn to calm your mind and tune into the divine. And this takes practice. Meditation will deepen your self-awareness, the awareness of your true self or the higher self, and the essence of your soul, which is unconditional love. You will find over time that you will have a powerful divine connection. You will receive powerful divine guidance and find inner stillness and peace. And it can be hard at first. I want to recognize that meditation can be hard for people, especially type A personalities, people who, when they sit with themselves, anxiety comes up, difficult emotions come up. A lot of people, and I have a lot of people like this in my life, when their response to hard things in their life is to run, to keep themselves busy. So when I say run, I mean they always have to be busy doing something. When they sit down, all of it starts to spill out and they freak out because they don't want to feel those feelings. They want to keep them shoved down. And so meditation can be really difficult. For those people, I usually would have them start with meditative walks because it's a starting point. And also with music or a guided meditation or something that's keeping their mind a little bit more occupied. And you can go into this in any way that you want. There is no right or wrong way. There are a myriad different types of meditation. And I want to be very clear that, again, there is no right or wrong way to meditate. Many people believe it's just sitting in complete silence and having an empty mind. The vast majority of people are really going to struggle with that. And I used to believe this. And 20 years ago, when I tried to do this, I found that I was never able to empty my mind. It was frustrating, it was boring, and it was very uninspiring. Many individuals with ADHD or ADD, trauma, or other mental health issues, people with ruminating thoughts, a lot of issues, are going to find this type of meditation to be completely impossible. Why would we make meditation difficult for different people? It just doesn't make any sense. The type of meditation that has provided the greatest benefit for me has been meditation with the help of soft meditation music and an eye mask. I begin with a short grounding, divine connection, cleansing, and protection practice in the beginning. And then I imagine myself in a beautiful setting in nature where I begin my meditation in my mind. I ask my spirit guides to guide the meditation for me and help me receive the messages that I need. My mind is never empty. Thoughts float through my mind and I just observe them without judgment and without holding on to them. I let them float away. And a lot of times I'll just, on that exhale, when I'm breathing out, I imagine it floating away. I'm going to let it go. And as my mind deepens in the meditation, that's when the spiritual messages or images begin to flow. At times, my mind does quiet down and it becomes a peaceful time of relaxation and a mental break. But I don't force that. Don't ever force that. You can allow, it can be really healing and important to just allow those thoughts to flow in coming in your mind and out. It's a practice of letting go. In that state, if that's all you do in the beginning is just observing your thoughts and learning to let them go, and it takes time to learn how to do that as well. Your brain wants to solve for things. And so if it brings in a difficult thought, your brain's going to start trying to solve for it and it's going to hold it. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm holding on to that. And then you work on letting it go and letting other ones arise. That might be where you start. Eventually, you're training your brain to let those things go. I don't need to solve for this right now. I don't need to solve for this. And then the mind eventually will quiet. And you may have a period of time during meditation where it's peaceful. And then you might start receiving spiritual messages when the mind calms down. It might take you a while to get there. It's different for everyone. It's totally fine. You're not doing it wrong. It doesn't matter what's coming up. Whatever's coming up is what you need. It's exactly what you need in that moment. Maybe you just need to learn to let go and not try to solve for every thought that comes up. Maybe it's going to take you 6 months before the mind quiets down, or a year, 5 years. I don't know. It's fine. So I want to share with you 25 different types of meditation. And I am doing this because I want to help you find a variety of meditation practices that will work for you, that resonate with you. There is no right or wrong way. I want to emphasize that over and over and over and over again. Find what resonates with you and do that. Sometimes I meditate and it's more of a manifestation visualization. Sometimes I do quiet my mind and I just let it go wherever it goes. It depends on the day and how I'm feeling that day and what I need. So, number 1, mindfulness meditation. This is just focusing on being present in the moment, observing thoughts without judgment. So this is kind of what I was talking about. It's a really easy entry point. Use meditation music, whatever you like. It doesn't matter. Pick the music. I would not recommend binaural beats for newbies. They're really intense. They can definitely throw you into an altered state of consciousness, which isn't a bad thing, but a lot of people can find them really difficult to listen to at first. So pick whatever resonates with you. Put your earbuds in, use an eye mask if you like, whatever. Sitting, laying down, doesn't matter. It's all about whatever is going to get you into that good space. And you just be present in that moment, breathing and observing what happens in your mind. And letting those thoughts flow and learning to not try to solve for everything. And, also calming the mind, not going through your daily schedule. Oh my gosh, I got to pick up the kids and I got to go to the bank before. Those are also thoughts. I'm not going to solve for that right now. And you may have to have a lot of mind chatter. Nope, we're not solving for that. Whew, let it go. And then another thing, oh my gosh, I forgot to do it. Oh, okay, let that go. We're meditating. And that might be how it goes at first, and that's okay. All right? But it's going to help you learn to be present, which is really important in showing up in your life that way as well. Be present with the people that you're with. And you're learning to be able to do that. Instead of always thinking about what do I got to do and me, and I'm so busy. You can sit down. You will learn to sit down and be present with someone and hold space for that person. Really going to enrich relationships outside of the meditation time. So that's why this is so great. Number 2 is guided meditation. Hopefully I don't make this too long because I definitely am a talker. So guided meditations. So this just involves listening to someone who's guiding you through visual or auditory journey for relaxation or healing trauma or healing something. Ancestral healing. There's a lot of different healing, inner child work, shadow work. There's all kinds of, I do a lot of guided meditations. I have a program coming out very soon that does healing guided meditations from the prenatal period through age 25. And then we do shadow work, inner child work, and finding your soul purpose. It's an entire lifelong guided meditation journey. And that'll be coming out really soon. So this is something that I do with clients. It can be very powerful to have someone guide you. Some people don't like that on like a daily basis or a regular basis. Some people don't like it. That's also totally fine. But some people need it because if your brain is if the anxiety and emotions are just too strong, trying the mindfulness one that we just talked about, try guided meditation as an entry point and see if that kind of keeps your brain busy, and it'll keep your brain on track because someone else is guiding it and your brain just has to go where they're taking you. So it can make it, this is a really good entry point for a lot of people. And I apologize if I mess up any of the words of these. I may not pronounce them entirely correctly, but we also have Vipassana meditation. which is a traditional Buddhist practice focused on developing insight into the true nature of reality through mindfulness and awareness of breath. So this is a very mindful meditation where you are aware of your breath. And I'm not going to get into a lot of the details of this one. I would say this is probably, I'm not saying a beginner couldn't do this, but it's definitely something that you need to know about. You need to understand how to do it. But that is another form. And then we have transcendental meditation. And this is mantra-based meditation where you silently repeat a specific word or sound or thought, kind of like an affirmation or whatever. And so you're repeating this word or whatever. So again, if you're interested in Vipassana or transcendental meditation or some of these, you may want to look them up and kind of look at the exact specifics of how to do them, because I don't want to make this like a 2-hour podcast explaining exactly how to do all of these, because we have 25 of them. So, but those are, if that sounds like something, if you're repeating a mantra in your mind, that may also pull your mind away from what you have to do that day or the anxiety. So that's another option. It's meant to transcend ordinary thought. So that may be another option you can try and see if you like that one. If you find some of these and you try them, you're like, I don't really like that. Great. There's 24 other ones to try. So we also have Zen meditation. And this is a seated practice that emphasizes mindfulness of breathing and letting go of mental distractions. Zen meditation is more of your like emptying the mind type meditation. Okay. I would definitely say that this is a little bit more advanced. Any beginner can do it. You can start this way, but you also have to be ready for the anxiety to come up, having to kind of face emotions and face that discomfort of just being with yourself in the silence. That's a really wonderful healing practice, but it can be too intense for trauma survivors, that type of stuff. So just be mindful of yourself and what your needs are. But this definitely is an excellent way to go. You learn a lot about yourself doing a Zen meditation. And then we have loving kindness meditation. And this, I love this. I've done this many times. It involves sending love and compassion to yourself and others through focused intention. So if you know someone who is hospitalized, let's say, and you are in a meditative practice and you bring that person into your mind and you through intention, you are sending love and healing and compassion to them. That's what this is. It's instead of like a Christian style prayer of like, I pray that this person gets better and that they will, feel God's love and that type of a thing. This is more of a spirituality way of sending a focused intention of love and compassion and whatever it is that you intend to send to that person. And it's really individual to you. If you believe in sending healing vibes or whatever it is that resonates with you, you create this in the way that resonates with you. So that's a really nice one. Number 7 is chakra meditation. So you can do these guided or not, but this is focusing on balancing your energy centers or chakras through visualization and breath work. I do this at times. Sometimes you'll notice some of your chakras being out of balance, either overactive or underactive. And so you can do a chakra meditation that's like a throat chakra meditation. And you can do it yourself. But for beginners, a lot of times it's easier to have a guided meditation. You can find them on YouTube. You can find them in lots of places. You can do an entire chakra meditation where you go through all of them, or you can focus on one that you know is underactive or overactive in you, balancing just that one or activating that one alone, however you want to do that. That is a really powerful way of keeping yourself balanced. And then we have the body scan meditation. And a lot of times meditations will include a lot of these. You may have a body scan that you do prior to a chakra meditation. So they can be combined as well. But this is where you scan the body for areas of tension and consciously figuring out. A lot of times people say, okay, we'll find the tension and we'll relax it. Well, that tension is there probably because there's stored emotion or old traumas or old emotional things that are being stored there. I mean, obviously, if you worked out yesterday and you're feeling some sore muscles, that's not what it is. But you'll find these areas of resistance. And I have this with people when I'm doing guided meditations with a client. I'll find times where we are having the white light coming through the crown chakra and are having it go down, and all of a sudden it gets stuck at the throat. And they can't get the white light to go any further. Or it'll get stuck at the heart chakra, or it'll get stuck somewhere. There's a message there. And so we're going to ask, what is stuck here? What is this tension? Where is it coming from? You will get an answer. Your higher self knows. Your higher self is going to give you an answer. It's going to say, this is an old trauma from you were 8 years old. This thing happened, whatever. And so it isn't just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to let that go. It might be something that needs to come up, that needs to be felt, that needs to be processed, and it could be a period of time. I had during a guided meditation, a private guided meditation with a facilitator, where we were doing inner child work. So something came up when I was 8 years old. I was in for 90 minutes processing that trauma. So don't, at these times, don't put time limits on yourself. Healing is yours. It is your own process, and it has to be full and complete for you. There's no one that gets to tell you how that is done or how long it takes or whatever, okay? Then we move into number 9, which is mantra meditation. Repeating a word, a sound, a phrase is very similar. Wait, did we do? This is very similar to transcendental mantra-like. You're repeating a word, a sound, a phrase to help focus the mind and enter a deeper state of awareness. So the difference between these two, the transcendental meditation is trying to transcend ordinary thought. Okay, and a mantra meditation is more like an affirmation meditation, or mantras that are helping you enter a deeper state of consciousness. So does that make sense what the differences are, where I'm trying to transcend my ordinary, conversation going on in my head, versus I'm trying to access a deeper state of consciousness with my mantras. Does that make sense? Or there's also affirmation mantras as well, where you're trying to, it's kind of more of a reprogramming default programs. That's another way of doing that. So those are different, even though they seem very similar, right? Number 10, breath awareness meditation. And this is more, in my opinion, this one is more breath work versus Zen meditation. We're trying to empty our minds, that kind of a thing, where this is more, this is a more in accessing other emotions through the breath. Number 11 is sound meditation. So you're using sounds, music, singing bowls, gongs to focus on and access deeper meditative states. This could be like sound healing as well, like a sound bath, very similar to a sound bath. So of course, using music doesn't make it a sound meditation, okay? Sound meditation is more like a sound bath. So we are using vibrations to do something, to deepen the meditative state, access deeper levels of consciousness. You have singing bowls or gongs that will resonate with the root chakra or the heart chakra or something like that. There's a lot of different sound techniques that can be used. This is not just using basic meditation music, if that makes sense. Number 12 is movement meditation. So this reminds me of my meditative walking that I do. This is something for beginners, people that are type A personalities, that really, really struggle with just sitting. It doesn't mean that you don't need to move on though, because that I have to constantly be busy. We need to look at where that's coming from. So while we are doing a walking, Tai Chi, yoga, Qigong, all of these movements, those are all types of movement meditation. And you could even, some Pilates. I was a Pilates teacher for many years, and I offered meditative movement classes based on Pilates exercises. So there's many different ways that this can be done. And it's very helpful for a lot of people that can't just sit still. So if that's your entry point, it's a great way to begin. Visualization meditation. So this involves creating mental images of peaceful or healing environments. I do this often, and it can be done for a variety of reasons. And I'm going to move a little faster because I want to get through these and not make this too long for you. Kundalini meditation. So this is focusing on a spiritual awakening. You're directing spiritual energy that's located at the base of the spine, and you're trying to move it up. This is done through breath work, chanting, and movement. So we are trying to get this spiritual energy that's located at the base of your spine. We're trying to get it moved up. Sometimes you may get it to the heart chakra. This is where you will find heart-centered consciousness here, if that's where it arrives at. Ultimately, the awakening is where it reaches the crown chakra. I would have to say I think this is really rare. I think a lot of people that say that they have this, they may have had it, but I wouldn't say that they're living out of being a spiritually awakened person all the time. Because for most people, I don't think this is a one-time event, and then it's like, I'm spiritually awakened. So Qigong meditation is another movement meditation. It's slow flowing movements and breath work to balance the qi within the body. This is traditional Chinese medicine type meditation. And then we have Tonglen meditation. This is a Tibetan Buddhist practice of breathing in others' pain and suffering and breathing out compassion and love. So this is a way of sending healing to individuals who might be hospitalized or suffering from chronic illnesses or any of that kind of thing. This is a way of you alchemizing the pain and suffering of others and breathing out compassion and love into the energetic field that we are all interconnected with. It's a beautiful meditation. Heart-centered meditations, again, this is more of a Western way of doing the Tonglen meditation, focusing on cultivating love, compassion, and joy by connecting with your heart space. So we're not necessarily, it's slightly different, but it really is helping you receive love and give love. Other sound healing meditations involving frequencies, tuning forks, crystal bowls, those types of things. This is more frequency. So this doesn't have to be just instruments. This could also be binaural beats. It could be certain frequencies like 432 hertz or 528 hertz. So again, different than the one that we had earlier, the sound meditations, where we're focusing on accessing deeper meditative states, whereas this one where we are looking at the frequencies. Third eye meditation, focusing on activating and awakening the third eye. This enhances intuition, spiritual insight, connection to spirit guides, your higher self, the divine, all of that. Tantra meditation, which emphasizes awareness of the body, breath, energy flow, and it's often used to deepen intimacy and connection with a partner. And this, again, I want to make very clear that if this is part of a spiritual journey as a spiritual seeker, this type of meditation is used for deepening connection. A lot of times this has been turned into something of very low vibration sexual energy. And that is not what it is meant to be. If you are talking about it, a spiritually awakened person or someone who is on a path to spiritual awakening or spiritual journey, this is not something that should be used where we are not honoring the dignity of other people, where this intimacy is, something with someone we don't know, we don't care about, anything like that. That's not what this is. So this is something to deepen connection. I want to make that very clear. Yoga Nidra is a guided meditation practice that takes you into a state of consciousness for deep sleep. and stress relief, but it can also lead to astral travel. If you are not aware what astral travel is, that is a very advanced technique. It is a very ancient practice, and if you're interested in that, let me know. We can definitely talk more about that, but I'm not going to get into that today. Christian meditation. So this uses scripture or prayer as the focus to deepen spiritual connection and reflection on the divine. So Christian meditation, a lot of times it's used as a part of prayer. So they pray first and then they sit in meditation to hear messages from God, or they meditate upon the scriptures. As that's another something that those who are Christians can. It's one of the main kind of ways that they meditate. They generally are not too keen on meditation, depending on how high demand of a Christian religion they are a part of. You have self-inquiry meditation, which centers on exploring the nature of the self, asking, who am I? And discovering the deeper truths of who you are outside of this physical realm. And this, I cannot pronounce this one, so I'm going to skip 24. It's an ancient Buddhist meditation. And it's, again, another form of mindfulness, cultivating awareness and that type of a thing. But I'm not even going to attempt that one. And number 25 is healing journey meditation. And so this is a guided meditation where you're led into a journey of shadow work, inner child healing, finding your soul's purpose, trauma healing, that type of thing. And I do this all the time with clients. So this is one of my main focuses when I do guided meditations. So I want to talk about, during this spiritual path, healing the past for future growth. So we touched on inner child healing during last week's podcast, but I want to mention it again because it's a powerful aspect of the spiritual journey and awakening to the truth of who you are. And it's so important to transcend the default programming that you were given as a child, because that dictates what you believe about yourself, what you believe about the world around you, how you show up in the world, the limiting beliefs that hold you back. So if you don't go into this inner child healing, you're really going to have a lot of a struggle on your spiritual path. Inner child healing is a process that helps you transcend this programming and rise above it. It begins to open up the truth of your soul, the truth of who you really are beyond the physical reality. Unresolved childhood wounds can impact you dramatically in your adult life. They can hinder or block your spiritual progress. Limiting beliefs that you may have learned from your parents, from school teachers, from religions, it makes up a lot of this default programming, and it's just on autopilot. We're not even aware of all of this programming. In a lot of ways, personality issues, toxic relationships, all this stuff comes from this default programming. And if we do not open up to seeing it and transcending it, you're not going to rise as high as you could. Any childhood trauma, rigid or negative belief systems can be transcended and healed through inner child work. And as you heal and work through the trauma and the belief systems, you'll find that you have a whole new perspective on life. It opens you up in a way you never thought possible and will allow you to embark fully on your spiritual journey. I offer inner child healing journeys to a select few clients, so you can contact me on my website, aurasoulinstitute.com, if you would like to reserve a spot as a client. I do have a program that will be coming out for those that don't have the opportunity to work with me directly. I do have a program coming out very soon that will guide you through this inner child healing work on your own. But if you would like to get on the list to reserve a spot to work one-on-one with me, you can contact me there at aurasoulinstitute.com, and that's AURASOUL institute.com. So the process of inner child healing begins with setting healing intentions, grounding, and connecting. So you're very grounded, you're very connected, and then going through a meditation practice to explore what needs to be healed, integrated. We do journaling, and then embodying that healing as you move forward. And that is what the program will focus on as well. When that program is finished, you can also sign up for the newsletter on my website to be notified when that program comes out. Then we have connecting with your higher self. This is another aspect of the path of the seeker that really has to be done. Connecting with your higher self or your soul is an absolute must. You begin to open up your understanding of the truth of who you really are. And you have to do that before you can begin to understand any other spiritual truths. Your higher self is the spiritual, eternal, divine part of you. Your higher self is your true self outside of this avatar that you are playing in this physical realm. The name that you have here, the body that you have, all of this is not who you really are. It's beyond your name. It's beyond your body. It's beyond the stories that you believe about yourself. As you connect with this higher self, you'll begin to understand who you truly are, and you can then allow your higher self to take control in your life and guide you to living the most authentic life. But the reality is, in order to be authentic, you have to have that connection. A lot of people think that they are living an authentic life. This is what I like. This is what I do. And the reality is, if you are not intimately connected with your higher self, you're probably not living authentically, even though you think you are. Most people allow their physical identity to make up all of who they believe they are. And they allow every physical appetite or emotion to dictate how they show up in the world, what they believe about themselves. This is living in exact opposition to the truth of who you are and why you are here. When you deeply connect with your higher self and allow that eternal aspect of you to begin to guide how you show up in the world, you find that your life becomes more heart-centered, more aligned. You become less reactive and more centered and purposeful. When your higher self is the guiding light of your life has purpose. Your interactions with others become less judgmental, more loving. Your impact on the world around you becomes more positive and less harmful to yourself and to other people. Meditation is the easiest way to foster a connection because you've got to silence all the noise. If you don't silence all the noise around you, if you don't sit and connect, the messaging and default programming is on autopilot. So meditation should begin with the intention. If this is what you're trying to do, you need to begin with the intention before you start meditating that you're going to connect with your higher self. And then sitting in observation with curiosity for what comes up and what messages your higher self is going to bring through you. Your higher self plays a critical role in guiding your spiritual journey and your soul purpose on earth. You don't know. You don't remember. It's your higher self that remembers. And you have to bring that remembering into your physical awareness. And this should be one of the first connections that you make on your spiritual journey. Then we go into connecting with spirit guides. And this is not, this doesn't resonate with some people, and that's totally fine. Spirit guides assist you in your spiritual development. You can connect through meditation, dreams, signs in nature, and even just asking for help, even in your mind, connecting with them. And the more that you learn how to connect and how they communicate with you, the easier it becomes. Learning to trust the guidance of your spirit guides in your everyday life. And it's really important to learn how to do that, to learn how they feel, to learn how they're communicating with you, and separate your own thoughts from their communication. This is just another aspect. If it resonates with you, great. If not, you can always stick with that higher self communication. But this is just another really helpful aspect that I have found really helpful for me. And the next one is the role of plant medicine in spiritual growth. And really, I want to emphasize very clearly that you need to feel called by the medicine. And you'll know. You won't be like, oh, I don't know, should I do that? You'll feel called. And when that comes up for you, and that curiosity and that desire to know and that strong desire for it, when that comes up, you'll know that it's calling to you. I have used plant medicine. There are legal ones that are not very well known that can be very beautiful to sit with. You can travel to another country to do an ayahuasca journey. There are some legal psilocybin journeys that are offered under religious exemptions in various places. So definitely look into your legal access to plant medicines. There's a lot of ways to do that. Plant medicine can be very powerful in healing trauma, in expanding consciousness, connecting with the divine, connecting you with the truth of who you are. I've experienced ego death during a plant medicine journey, which can be really, really profound if you're prepared for it. It can be very frightening if you're not. But each medicine provides different messages and different experiences, and all the experiences are teachers. You will have sometimes difficult ones. I've had a couple of somewhat difficult journeys, but during the integration, the messages really come through as to the meaning of what you experienced. It is important to approach plant medicine with respect, with intention, and guidance from experienced facilitators. And you also need to honor and respect the legality. Unfortunately, it's something that the government, they don't care about people drinking alcohol or getting drunk, but heaven forbid you take plant medicine, right? So, you do need to be respectful of the legality of wherever you are. But if you're feeling called to it, it's definitely a very, very powerful form of spiritual connection. And I will say, in healing trauma, some of these journeys in one day can be the same as 10 years of counseling. And not only is it the equivalent of that, but it connects you with the truth of who you are. The healing is so much more profound because it is based in the truth of who you are. It is a connection with the divine. It is a connection to your divine self, rather than someone just trying to help you reframe your thoughts. It's just so much more powerful when it is the divine part of you and the divine creator that's guiding and facilitating this growth and expansion and healing. It's unlike anything else you will experience. And it is not like chemicals. It is not like pharmaceuticals. It is completely different. It is not numbing you out. And that's the thing, is that we don't want to feel things. If you're depressed, we don't want to look into where this is coming from. We just want to put a Band-Aid on top of it. And you are never going to find spiritual awakening and the truth of yourself when your brain is under the influence of these types of things every single day. Suppressive things. Plant medicine is not a suppression. It will throw it in your face at times if you're not careful. It will bring up the anxieties, the fears, some of that stuff. Not always. Sometimes the journeys are beautiful. Most of the time they are. But it is definitely not a Band-Aid. It is something that brings you in and through. And when you come out the other side, the healing is so much more profound. And you are not reliant on plant medicine for the rest of your life. It's like one and done, in essence. I mean, if you still want to use plant medicine as part of your spiritual journey, some people will use it regularly, at the change of seasons, or they have a regular practice of sitting with plant medicine. That's totally fine. That is a part of their spiritual journey. But for those that are looking for healing trauma, and learning more about the truth of who they are, you could have several journeys, a handful of journeys, and go on with your life in a more healed and whole space. And I think that is really crucial, is that full, complete, and total healing. That's really what I think we all should be seeking for. So yes, I can talk about plant medicine. I could do an entire podcast on that because I love working with plant medicine and sitting with it. I even basic Babensana or Kana. Kana is legal everywhere, I believe, other than Louisiana, but please check before purchasing, but I believe it's legal everywhere. It is not psychoactive in the sense that, it's not psychedelic in the sense that you're not going to hallucinate. It's not going to throw you into an altered state of consciousness, but it's very heart opening, and it is very, very opening of the crown chakra, and it will deepen your meditations. It will make it easier. If you struggled connecting with the divine, if you're coming from a high demand religion and you never felt a connection to the divine, you're really struggling connecting with your higher self, you're really struggling with this, Kana is just a great basic. It's not psychedelic. It's not going to do anything. It's just very heart opening. It may make you feel really lovey. It acts on serotonin receptors in the brain. It's not super powerful, but you may want more loving connection because of its heart opening aspects. But it's definitely a great entry point for some people. But Bob and Sana is another one. There are gummies you can take. Again, it's just very, very heart opening. So it's just really good to kind of get you in a space for meditation. It's legal everywhere. It's very basic. All the way up to, your ayahuasca journeys where you're probably going to have to travel to South America or somewhere else to experience. And you will feel called by any of these. In my herbalist training, we did have training in Amanita muscaria and a lot of different plant medicines. And so that was kind of where I had my first introduction to these things. The next one is the meditative walks and nature baths. And I love nature baths. I think they're extremely powerful. It helps you ground in the present moment. Meditative walks is part of most of the programs that I use with clients. Anyone who is new to meditation and really struggles with sitting or with yoga where they have to hold poses and it feels kind of repetitive, they need that stimulation of the brain, they're really struggling, a meditative walk is usually how I will have them begin connecting with nature. The meditative walks do need to be in nature somewhere. This is not a treadmill thing. So these meditative walks, you can put in meditation music. I do not recommend listening to popular music or even music with words. There are some guided meditations where it is geared towards walking. That's fine because you don't want to be in an altered state of consciousness, right? But whenever I do this, it does need to be meditative music, and it needs to be something that you are trying to connect with your higher self, trying to connect or receive messages, connect with the divine, something like that. And nature baths, immersing yourself in nature to absorb its healing energy. And this is something that's prescribed in Japan for healing. It is very grounding. It's very calming to the mind. You are aligning with the earth's energy. It is excellent for anxiety, for depression, for ruminating thoughts, for those that feel really disconnected from the divine, disconnected from the spiritual aspects of themselves. There's a lot of healing, and I'm not going to go into all the details. That's a whole podcast in itself. But both of these practices can be extremely healing in themselves. Daily spiritual practices, we just really wanting to support heart-centered consciousness. So you can work with gratitude journaling, breath work, affirmations, manifesting practices, incorporating ceremonies, cacao ceremonies or any type of ceremonies, rituals to honor spiritual milestones or to connect in some way. And there's a million different rituals and ceremonies that can be done. It really just depends on what resonates with you. And that's just something to look into. Lastly, though, embodying heart-centered consciousness and unconditional love. And this is the key. This is where you know that you are on the path, that you are embodying what it means to be spiritually awakened. When you have self-love and you can offer that to yourself freely, when you can offer compassion and empathy to others, when you are not expecting spiritual bypassing of emotions, of people's experiences, there's no victim blaming, there's no you manifested this into your own life type of stuff. It literally is an embodiment of love and acceptance of other people, acceptance of their journeys and where they're going, regardless of, this passing judgment. When we're constantly passing judgment, even judgments on people's appearance. If we are passing judgments on someone's weight, the wrinkles on their skin, how old they look. What you're doing is you're living in a selfish state of consciousness, expecting that other people visually please you. That is not a higher state of consciousness. That is a very, very low level of consciousness. That you expect other people to look a certain way or be a certain way. We all age. Every last one of us, and we all age differently. And it's not something to blame someone for, and it's not something to judge. It's just part of life. And when we can learn to accept who people are, whether that person is struggling with anorexia and they look very, very ill, like they're knocking on death's door, all the way to some of the largest people, my 1,600-pound life, 1,000 pounds, whatever it is, when we can offer compassion and see the pain in their eyes, when we can see the struggle and we can offer compassion instead of judgment, that's when you know you're on the right path. And this is a lifelong journey of awakening to this heart-centered consciousness. It is not natural in this physical realm to be this way. That's why we say it's the path of a seeker. You are seeking for this spiritual awakening. You are seeking to go into deeper levels of love, deeper levels of awareness, deeper levels of spiritual reality. Because it is not natural. Most people live completely numb and unaware. And they go around judging other people and almost causing harm like a Tasmanian devil because they are unhealed. They are unaware, they are unhealed, they live in the physical reality, and they medicate. Sometimes it's just self-medicating. But when we are able to become aware, fostering practices that bring us into this space, you will know that you are continuing to raise higher and higher and higher the less judgmental you are. The more love that you offer. When you see someone that's in need, you'll become more aware. You'll be at the grocery store. You'll see the mom in the ragged clothes that's trying to count enough change to buy a few groceries for her kids, and you will immediately spring into action. You will swipe that card and you'll pay for it. You will give her $100 bill. You will do something. You will find yourself constantly acting in compassion and love. No judgment. You're not going to look at this woman and say, you brought this on yourself. You manifested this into your life. That is not coming from heart-centered consciousness. That is not coming from any level of spiritual awakening. Spiritually awakened person steps in to offer help. A hand up for everyone. No matter what. No judgment. None. Hopefully, this has kind of helped you see. There are so many ways on the spiritual path. So many different ways to meditate. So many different rituals and ceremonies and connections and things, paths that you can take. And I encourage you to explore these practices and implement the ones that resonate with you. Integrate them into your daily life. Continue on this path of spiritual awakening. Embody love and heart-centered consciousness with every single step. I want to thank you for tuning in today and listening. And also, I just want to mention before we close, if you do want to work one-on-one with me, you can reserve a spot. Contact me on my website, soulinstitute.com, and I can reserve a spot for you. That is very limited. Or sign up for the newsletter for the announcement for the self-paced program. So I just want to make you aware of those. And I really appreciate you being here with me. And keep seeking.